Hi everyone, I am Bhumika and today we have with us Dravisha Kathod. She's the founder of Learn for Less, where she's helping students and young professionals build their personal brand. She was also a part of the Harvard Annual Conference in 2019 and the youngest delegate at the World Economic Youth Forum 2019 held in Egypt. Selected as the LinkedIn campus editor and being a TEDx speaker, she's a girl who has done it all. We are very excited to have you here with us, Dravisha. Welcome to our channel.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful and a starry introduction, Dor. I don't deserve all of that, but I gladly accept it. And I eagerly look forward to our conversation today.
All right. So I watched your TED Talk and you mentioned a quote by Nietzsche, which goes like, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." And it was such an uplifting talk. And you shared your journey and how you managed dysmenorrhea with your school and your college. So I would want you to give a brief about how has the journey been.
So my journey, as you might have heard in the talk, has been completely opposite from what I had in high school versus college. And to just give you a peek into both, I especially included this quote by Nietzsche because I feel that a lot of us, especially students, get struck by the adversities we face in high school or college, be it, not landing an internship or even as bad as suffering from a chronic medical condition as me. I feel that we get struck down very easily as students because we're at the step one of our journey, and if something strikes us, we feel very dejected and demotivated, right? And I was at that point as well. It wasn't that I was highly motivated or like outstanding kid who wants to do it all, but I was that kid as well. But what I realized and what changed for me was this realization that, hey, it's okay if it's happening. You can use it for your own benefit, right? I used to work harder on days when I'm not suffering with pain and just completely rest when I'm in pain. It took me a lot of time to accept the fact that I will work 60 days less than other students per year because I was like, maybe I'm behind the race. And I took that to my advantage that, okay, I might be behind the race, but I can also be ahead if I work harder in the days I'm fine and when I'm not having pain, right? There was this point where I was like very low and I just took it to my advantage and work harder the days I was not in pain. That was the entire idea of including this quote and take the adversities to my advantage, which obviously took a lot of time, but that's how I did it. And yeah, I used to do whatever I used to love, and that made me stronger, right? If you achieve little things in life, be it completing a drawing, it gives you that confidence that you can achieve things, you can do this, right? That's how I made myself stronger, to give you a little bit more into why I included this quote.
Yeah. That is such a positive message, and I really admire you for your spirit. So now that you mentioned that as students, we worry a lot about internships and
Exactly.
in our professional life. So since you have worked with so many companies, do you have a blueprint for students that they should follow if they are looking for internships?
So I would definitely not recommend following a blueprint or a two-step guide or 5 hacks to land an internship at Big Four and things like that.
Yeah.
But I will say that in my first semester, I was hell-bent on landing an internship, and I landed my internship right in my second semester, unlike my peers. And going against the advices of my seniors that, hey, you're doing BTech, you need it in your fourth year, and just go with the flow, do courses, make your hard skills strong. And I was like, no, I really want to do something and see, how companies function. And I didn't even know back then, like, what do I have to learn? What am I going to do in life? What job will I get after I graduate? I was so clueless, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to do an internship. I don't know. Even if I do courses, they won't tell me, right, what I love and what I can do. So I was hellbent and I landed an internship in my second semester. And it was actually the most underpaid gig I've ever done in my entire life. I used to write 2,000 word SEO optimized essays, 15 a month. Okay. And I was being paid only $1,500. Can you imagine that?
That's too low.
That was so less. And I was a naive kid. I didn't know that. I was like, oh my God. My mom used to give $1,500 to me as my pocket money back then. And I
Yeah.
was staying away in a hostel. So she used to give me $1,500 for food and stuff. And I was like, I'm getting 1,500 more. And that's why I said yes to this internship. I was very naive. I
Yeah.
didn't see what work are they going to ask me to do. And a lot of kids are naive like I was, right? I didn't know I'm being underpaid at all and I had no exposure. So I would say that don't do the mistake I did. A lot of kids, even in my college, and other colleges for that hustle and for that experience go for underpaid internships or in fact internships that don't pay them anything. So the only thing I would say in the blueprint would be that don't go for anything that you do for free. Rather, in case you can't find an internship, it's not mandatory to for you to go for an internship. This was one of the mistakes I did, and I realized that hey, if I don't have an internship, I would mention that I left that internship midway. I was like, this is horrific. This is labor. This is torture. So I was like, okay, I'm a loser. I'm not getting an internship. What the hell should I do? So I started my own initiative, a mental health initiative. I was doing it after high school and I continued it further, which was to counsel and be an ear to people who are facing mild to moderate mental health issues and guide them to experts. Because I just remembered a random stats from WHO that only 6% of people in India actually go to psychologists or therapists, and that struck a chord in me that hey, what can I do to increase that number? I'm a person and I will do as much as I can, and I will be an ear to people as much as I can, even though it's little. And I was able to help 50 people. Imagine making 50 people smile. And that was my achievement that summer after my second semester. While my friends were doing unpaid internships, I was doing something of my own. So I would just say that, if you can't find well paid internships because you want to experiment, everybody will ask you to experiment, and that's not wrong. But in case of free internships, you can also experiment doing your own things that you love to do. Be it running a podcast, be it doing a mental health initiative like I did. You can plant 100 trees in a row and talk about it on social media and urge everybody else to do and things like that. Do whatever you want to do. Internships are not the only way to gain experience. And if you want an internship and you only want an internship, I would say go out and network. I've been using Twitter recently. I have used LinkedIn extensively. I grew my following on LinkedIn as a student, and I'm still a student. So I would say that networking is the key to landing a great internship. It's not applying via careers page. So keep these two things in mind. Firstly, that internships are not mandatory. You don't have to do you don't have to do any single free internship. You can do things of your own. And what I learned doing something of my own was marketing. I learned how to write content. I learned how to pitch my initiative to people. I learned how to manage content. I learned graphic designing because I had to do some Instagram marketing I never did. So imagine doing something of your own teaches you much more than doing some work for free for someone else, right? They don't value you. So value yourself and do something of your own. If you don't get an internship. And secondly, if you want an internship, networking is key. Networking does not mean that you're going to spam recruiters and spam professionals with their resumes and advices. It's about building relationships, looking out for each other, leaving meaningful comments, leaving meaningful messages for others, building relationships. That's networking. So if you can do that as a student, like I did very early on, you're going to land some great gigs and even internships for that matter. And that's my blueprint for you.
Yeah. That is such a practical advice, and I think we need a lot more courage, like you mentioned. So even if we don't find anything, the kind of entrepreneurial skill that our own initiative gives us, I think no internship can match that for sure.
And just to add you on that line, even jobs look out for entrepreneurial skills these days, even corporates for that matter. So it's only going to add to your resume. Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, do something really small of your own. That really helps you learn a lot.
Yeah. All right. So continuing on LinkedIn and you talked about networking. So what is your definition of personal branding?
Personal branding makes me remember this very difficult chapter I did back in 10th grade, which was on light. And we learned what is an image, right? An image of a candle. And I see personal branding exactly as that, an image of yours, right? You imagine you're a person and there's light in front of you, just like that pathetic candle that we had and those horrible drawings that we had to do. It was so difficult for me, oh God. So imagine you're a person, imagine you're that candle and there's a light in front of you and there's an image forming at the back of you. Now, if you move that light, people are going to see different images, right? Now, that content is the light for you and that image is personal branding, right? So that's how I would explain it in simple terms. That's exactly what personal branding is.
That's such a good analogy.
I just made it up in the second. I'm sorry if it was horrible.
No, it was good. All right. So because LinkedIn has become a fabric of society now, what are some of the tips that you would want to give out to students if they want to, develop their personal brand on LinkedIn?
Okay, I can speak forever on this, but just I would speak about a few key points. So if you want to really build your personal brand on LinkedIn, keep branding in mind about, hey, what's my profile picture? What's my cover photo? What am I speaking about in the about section? It has to be unique, all of it, right? It shouldn't be a selfie or Amitabh Bachchan's photo and the profile photo. I've seen that, trust me. I've seen selfies, pouting, and blank headlines. So make sure you're not that person. And make sure that your about section is optimized. You have some keywords mentioned. And your experience section is well written, especially in bullet points. I cannot emphasize it should be in bullet points. No one likes to read paragraphs unless it's your about section. So make sure the rest of your profile is smoothly laid out and you've mentioned everything. That is very briefly about profile optimization. Coming to personal branding, it's all about content and nurturing relationships, right? When I started back in 2018, I've been long gone from LinkedIn for about more than a year. I've been very inconsistent with my content now and then because of college and work. But for my first year in LinkedIn, that was when I gained most of my audience. I was heavily active as a student in my first year and half of my second year. And what I focused on was content, right? As students, we don't have any expertise. I still think of myself as someone who's not an expert. I'm still learning and I'm still very young in my career. But what I focused on as a student was that if there's no expertise that I can offer experience and learnings, right? So I always correlate what I've done and what I experienced and sort of focus that into learnings.
Okay.
So what I'm doing with that is I'm offering value to my audience, right? That is one thing we should all focus on. If there's no value, why are people going to follow you?
Yeah.
So that's key point for us students to remember. And second would be, it's not about just posting content. You can go on LinkedIn and post daily, but that's not it, right? You should also be able to nurture relationships. Now, by nurture relationships would be not to leave comments like interested and stuff on scamish posts. That does give you reach, but that doesn't nurture relationships. So don't do that. And also don't spam HRs and professionals. That's not nurturing relationships. That's not the best way you can connect with them. Leave meaningful comments on their posts. Ask them about their experience or their journey. Ask them intriguing questions and try to not bond with them like professionals, but as friends. Try to learn something from them, right? Who knows that one day they might be giving you tips for your interviews because you're friends. And I've made so many friends, trust me. All of my friends that I've made on LinkedIn are way elder to me, and even on Twitter. And people are open to making friends, not replying to messages that seek resume advice and referrals out of nowhere. No one's going to refer you if they don't know you, right?
That's
Once in blue moon, maybe. So focus on nurturing relationships as in networking, which is the right way of networking, I would say. So focus on these 2 points, I would say, and you're good to go.
That's some really good advice. And because like you rightly said, because a lot of people are now being active on LinkedIn. So I see a lot of polls and interested and, posts like these, but I don't know the kind of impact that they have. So it's very important that we are aware of what kind of content that we want to put out. So,
Yes.
yeah. All right. So talking about your experience at Harvard, so would you like to share how was it and what is the application process?
So I have been to two Harvard conferences. One was in Malaysia and the other one was at Harvard College itself. And the Asia one happened first, and then the Harvard one happened at the Harvard College itself. And trust me, it was beyond amazing. It was, in fact, the first time I learned about the word entrepreneurship was at the Harvard Asia Conference in my second year. Yeah. I didn't know what is entrepreneurship, by the way. I just heard this word called entrepreneur in some headlines, and I never cared to or bothered to check it out. What is it? It was in my start of my second year when I went to this conference and learned about it, and I was absolutely thrilled with it. And I learned a lot of stuff about entrepreneurship and tech there. It was the first time ever in my life that I was in a room full of 600 people, and they were entirely foreigners. And it was the first time I was visiting out of India. It was the first time I was getting a stamp on my passport, and I didn't know how to network. I was just someone who's very shy to speak to people, especially you're looking at people who are not Indians for the first time, and I was super awkward. But I did some very nice things there. I took all the delegates. Over 100 of them joined me to a nearby countryside UNESCO heritage city. I organized that trip just to make friends, network with people. And I took some souvenirs from India as a gift for my friends that I made there. And it was a blast for me. Like, I was a shy kid on day one, and I made huge friends by the end of the conference. So in nutshell, that's how my Asia conference went. And about Harvard College conference, I actually raised a lakh for that conference because my parents couldn't fund it. I couldn't fund it. I was out of funds. And I really wanted to go. And even before applying to that conference, I told my mom that, Mom, I'm going to America next February. This was in December when I told her. And she was like, okay, you can dream all you want. We don't have money. We have fees to pay. My fees was due for next semester. So they could either pay that or for the conference. So I was like, okay, it's obviously my college that I wanted to pay for, but I figured out a way, right? And I realized that I might as well do a fundraising for the event. If it happens, it's okay. If it doesn't happen, I wouldn't go. I mean, if people are willing to help me, they would help. And if it doesn't happen, it's okay. But I was really dedicated. I was like, I'm going to go. I have a gut feeling I'm going to go. So I did my best to the application. I was really into my application. I took 3 good days to write it. And I guess what I was in. And I created a fundraiser for a lakh with all my expenses there. And least possible flight, least expensive rent of the Airbnb that I could get. And I did everything I could. And I wrote a very nice message with it about myself and what I aim to do with this conference and things like that. And I raised a lakh in just 15 days. And it happened. And I was in Bali at that time, already on a scholarship and another conference. I was working with the Bali government there, and I just got this news. And I remember it was 12 in the night, and I saw that the fundraiser was complete, and I was just on top of my world because I had to hurry up, get visa. It was already in January, and the conference was in Feb. So I was on the brink of my heart whether this is going to be possible or not, because visa appointments are something that is very difficult to get. And that's how the entire process of getting to Harvard was for me. And trust me, when I was there, it was like, oh my God, I achieved my dream. And I never thought it's gonna come true so soon. I wanted to be at Harvard at a conference or as a student or whatever, but I wanted to be there. And it just came true suddenly in my second year. It was a bummer to me, but yeah, it was all worth it. And I would like to highlight what really played a key role in my interview was the mental health initiative I did, and not the pathetic internship I did.
Yeah.
So it really matters to the world. What are you doing, especially
Mhm.
to enhance your skills, and at the same time give it back? How are you giving it back with your skills? That
Yeah.
is what really matters. And that is something that also got me through,
Mhm.
because they heavily questioned on me. So I'm guessing that was a key judging point for my interview. And I will give two very quick tips about the interview. So I've also judged application as a director of the Harvard US India Initiative later, recently.
Okay.
So I would say that something that applicants should focus on should be not achievements and facts about them. For example, a couple of students from top colleges in India, I wouldn't name the colleges, but they would mention that, hey, I got these many scores in the entrance exam and I made it through to this college. It is a great achievement, but there's a way you can write it, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I scored 100 on 100 in my physics exam. That's my biggest achievement. I would say that it was my father's dream or my grandpa's dream for me to AS and learn physics because he was serving in the army with a signal regiment, and I wanted to at least, if not be in that regiment, at least learn something that he respects a lot, which is physics, right? And I did it, and the day I got 100 on 100, I could see the tears of happiness in my parents and my grandpa. And that's how I would write it, right? People should not write their journeys and achievements as facts, but as stories, right? And invoke it with emotion always, because that's how people can connect with you. That is one key point we should always keep in mind about applications. That's the golden rule that I've learned. I didn't know back then, but I realized it over the time as and when I wrote applications and judged a few, not a few, in fact, 2,500. But yeah, that's what I've learned. And that is something I would like to share about my application process at HPAIR. And it's very simple, quite simple actually. You have to submit 2 essays and a 1-page resume. And thereafter, you will be asked to give an interview if you're selected. And then third, you get in and pay the fees, etc. So that's how the entire process is.
That sounds like such a dream. And the way you mentioned about crowdfunding and everything and how it all came about.
I
That
know I just went too long with the flow and the excitement, but I really had to tell you the
no, I
story.
mean, I think I don't know. I have only seen a very few people who actually do that. And it sounds like, like everyone can do that because all they have to is, put themselves out there and the kind of principles that they want to pursue or any goals that they want to pursue. So that's great advice again. All right. So moving on to your initiative that you are working on currently, and Learn for Less, where you help people build their personal brand. So tell us more about the initiative.
So I wouldn't want to pitch what I'm doing, but I would like to share how I started. I think that will give you an idea of what I'm doing and why I'm doing. So it all started with the students messaging me on LinkedIn that, hey, how is it that you have so many followers? You're still a student, you're doing nothing great in life, etc. And I'm still not doing, but yeah, I'm still a student, just trying different things. But I do have a good following. I do have a family that I support and they love me back as well. And I just love being on LinkedIn with them. So how is it that I had those followers? And some would write to me that, how did you get so many likes on your post? Is there some trick or some hack? What is it that you do? So I realized that because they want those followers, they want those likes at the end for what? For a job, right? For them to, let's say, get freelancing gigs or an internship. They want some visibility on LinkedIn as students as well, right? So I realized that the whole idea of personal branding is very skewed. They equate personal branding with, huge following and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, why are people equating personal branding with numbers? It's not all about numbers, and it's not about hacks and tips. It's about having a mindset of how you want to portray your image. Like I talked about that candle and the entire light thing. So I was like, people don't know how to even light that candle. People are just running behind that. Oh my God, I need to get that image. But if you don't light up the candle right and put it in the right position, how will you get that exact image that you want to portray? So I was like, this is really cute. People are just running behind the image and not doing anything about the candles, right? Especially students.
Yeah.
And second was, most of the students don't even know person branding. So I will tell you that from a very eye-opening experience that I had. So I was speaking at one of the top colleges in DU, and everybody knew what's person branding. So it's better to communicate with them about tactics and my experience, right? And then I was speaking at a tier 3 college, and when I asked them what is person branding, nobody knew. Not even a single student knew what is person branding, right?
Yeah.
They knew it's some buzzy term and things like that, nothing beyond that. And I was shocked. I was
Yeah.
like, it's sad that they don't know how they can leverage it, because they have amazing skills as well. It's not that tier 3 college students don't have great skills, or they might be any less competitive. Trust me, they are very good at it. It's just that they don't know what is person branding. So I was like, if the students at top colleges and if students at tier 3 colleges have same hard skills and same competency, the only thing that's stopping tier 3 colleges to grab the same opportunities as them was person branding, right?
Yeah.
That the whole issue of placement cells is a different issue altogether, but they can leverage person branding to be at the same table,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, I want to do this. I want to offer, you know, some affordable workshops and sessions that these students could do, and not teach them hacks and tips and those how to increase those numbers, but teach them how they can find their own strengths and leverage person branding for themselves, right? I found my own way. Something that could work for them could be totally different, right? How is it that you find it? How is it that I found that I want to do marketing and I want to write about marketing and I want to write about helping other students, right? They could be writing on something entirely different. They don't have to do what I did. I was like, let's do this. And another issue was I couldn't find great guides on person branding. So some of the person branding guides you can Google right now would teach you to build your emailing list and do webinars, but students can't do that, right? With 0 followers, you put up a website, no one's going to visit, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, students can't do this. What's on internet, we can't. Absolutely, with 0 network. There has to be someone to teach them that mindset, to be able to light that candle the right way and grow from scratch the right way, right?
Yeah.
And not just with hacks and tips. That's why I started Learn for Less. We did 4 pilots, and we're building the platform recently so that people can have their own dashboards and access great stuff. I also added free resources for students that they get with workshops, which was again entirely for these students to be at the same table as the students of the top colleges, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the whole Learn for Less started. I started 4 pilots, like I said. We experimented different pricing models, different content, just to help students better. And the result has been great, and we're building a platform. And yeah, it's all about helping students learn person branding at an affordable price and get other stuff for free as much as they can. I've made them myself from my own experience. They're not hacks and tips again. So that's all Learn for Less is about.
That's such a noble cause that you're working for, and I urge everyone to just go and check out the page. No endorsing here, but I have gone through the page, and it's for students. So please check out the page. And Dravish, any last bit of advice that you would want to give out to students? Already you have mentioned such golden nuggets of advice, but then any last piece of advice?
I think my last piece of advice would be to not keep the end goal as I want to be an expert at this. For example, there are a lot of people out there who are like marketing experts and I don't know, coding experts and things like that. Sure, I mean, you want to master something, that's not bad, but what that goal of being an expert does to you is it limits your actions toward other diverse skill set that you could have, right? If I wouldn't have been experimenting different ideas and different internships, I wouldn't know what am I good at, right? I would be like, okay, I just want to do marketing, and I would have done just marketing. I wouldn't have be great. I'm great at design, let me tell you. I could learn design. Why? Because I was open-minded. It's not that I want to be a marketing expert, so I'm just going to do marketing. I've experimented with design and I can do decent designing, if not awesome. I can do decent code, if not awesome, right? I can do decent painting, if not awesome. Now I'm good at these things because I didn't limit my mind and limit my end goal with saying that, hey, I want to be an expert at this, right? And that is one thing we all should keep in mind as students, because this is the time we can experiment. This is the time we can expand our skill set, right? And everybody loves a person who's diverse. Sure, I mean, marketing is my main skill, and I am day by day getting better at it with experimenting, but it's not that I won't experiment at other things.
Yeah.
And second would be stay away from the hustle culture. Trust me, I was this person on LinkedIn who would write about how I was up the entire night learning this and that, and coding and reading a book. And this is what it has taught me. Don't be that person. I'm admitting this person, publicly, that I was that person who used to endorse hustle culture. And I realized just a year back during the pandemic when all the health issues started. So I would urge everybody, like students like me and young professionals, to take care of their health and stay away from screens as much as you can, laptops, mobiles. Spend time with your loved ones. That's something we don't do. That's one advice I would give to everybody, because you're going to get all the professional advice you can from other people out there, but this is something nobody will tell you. People are going to tell you this is the time to hustle. You're young, you're in 20s. If not now, then when? My question to you is, if you are the person that says this, do you think that if you hustle now, what is the point of all the hustle if your body won't support you 5 years later? That is what I did. It just came all early to me. So 5 years is still very long, but I will just give this reminder to everybody watching us and hearing us, that please take care of your health and your loved ones, and be diverse as much as you can, keeping one skill as your, I would say, your horse eye on one skill, and don't hesitate from experimenting on other skills. You might as well find a combination. I mean, I feel very proud that I'm a computer science major and my main skill is marketing, right? So I feel extremely comfortable working with tech companies when it comes to marketing. It might as well come to your advantage.
Again, some great words and great pieces of advice. Thank you so much for joining us, Pravisha. It was such an amazing, amazing conversation.
Thank you for inviting me, and I loved answering every piece of your question with, I might as well give horrible advice, but it has worked for me. So it might as well work for you. And thank you once again.
Thank you.